Hey, this is Chris King with Desert Sun Flutes, and in this video I'm going to show you some of my favorite flutes and how they sound and the differences between the different keys and sizes. And my goal is to help you, if you're a new flute player or you're an experienced flute player looking for the next flute, pick the one that's right for you. So let's jump right in. This is the first one I want to talk about. This is a flute in the key of A. This is one that I made, and this is one of my go-to flutes to recommend to people who are new flute players or who want an all-around flute that's great for all sorts of different circumstances. And I love this just because it's really easy for anybody to play. You'll notice that the finger spacings are somewhat close together so they can accommodate most hand sizes. I've got bigger hands and wider fingers, so it's still easy for me to play and get my fingers onto the flute. But if you have smaller hands, there's a good chance your hands will fit as well, or medium hands are perfect. Pretty much whoever you are and whatever your hands look like, they'll be able to play this flute. Now the length of this flute is about 18 inches long. So it's great to carry with you. It'll fit in a lot of backpacks if you want to take it out hiking with you or on trips. And it has a nice decent tone. It's not so small that it has a really high tone. Just a great place to start. And I'll play you a little sound sample. So you notice the key of A is kind of a mid-tone flute, so not real high, not real low, kind of right in the middle. Now this flute has 5 holes, so you'll see that there's one missing here. A lot of the other flutes I'll show you have 6 holes, and the reason that I love making them with 5 holes, especially for the new player, is that you don't have to have that cue of keep this finger closed most of the time. So that's the standard scale. The minor pentatonic scale, and if you have a 6-hole flute, you'll just keep that hole covered. So a lot of people say, well, what is that hole there for? And it allows you to play more advanced and different scales later on. But in the very beginning, it's almost like a hindrance. Like I said, it's an extra cue that I have to teach people when they're getting started to keep that hole covered. So a 5-hole flute's awesome to get going. And if you're an advanced player, it's great too, because like I said, 90% of the time, you're not going to use that hole. So it's just one less thing to think about. Now, the next flute I want to show you is the key of G. This flute is in the key of G. This is another one I made out of quilted maple. I just love the grain on that flute. It's one of my favorite woods. Now this flute's a little bit bigger, so a little bit longer. The total length on this flute is 21 inches, so a little bit longer, a little bit harder to carry in a backpack or something like that, but still not too long. And its voice is a little bit deeper, which you'll hear in this sample. So when you hear that, if you like the tone of that flute that's a little bit deeper, the key of G might be an excellent flute for you. It's very similar to that flute in the key of A, one of those mid-tone, easy to play flutes that I recommend for a lot of people. Now you'll see that these finger holes are spaced a little bit more. So they're a little bit more of a stretch for your fingers to cover. But like I said, most people, that's just fine. If you have exceptionally small hands, it might be difficult to cover these holes comfortably. It might be more of a stretch for you. Or if you have bigger hands, you might find a flute in the key of G is perfect for you. But either one would be a great first flute or second flute to add to your collection. Going up the scale, this is a flute in the key of F sharp, so it's just a little bit longer. Very similar to the G flute, 22 inches, so about 1 inch longer. And the key of F sharp is a beautiful tone. It's also the tone of the heart chakra. So when I play this flute and when people hear this flute, they often feel very warm because it really helps connect to the heart center. And see if you can hear that in this sound. Just a very beautiful sound. Just a little bit bigger than the key of G, and the finger holes are spaced just a little bit more as well. So once again, if you got bigger hands, this is an excellent first flute for you, or next flute if you're progressing in your practice. So if you've got maybe a flute in the key of A or D, a higher tone, and you're looking for that second flute, this might be an excellent one for you. It's a little bit more challenging to play because it's longer, so that end note, you have to be a little more subtle. If you blow too hard, you hear how the note jumps to the next octave? You have to be a little more sensitive with your breath pressure, but not a huge thing. So if you just love the sound of the F sharp and feel like that's a flute that you really resonate with, even if you're a new player, you can learn how to play a flute like this. This one is my owl medicine flute. Has a little owl bone carved totem there. I made this flute to commemorate the owl with the rainbow moonstones for the nighttime. Just because I love owls, they're one of my spirit animals, and I wanted to make a flute to commemorate them. So those are the flutes that are perfect for the beginner. They're very all around, very versatile. They're great for anybody, really. The A, the G, and the F sharp. Now, if you've been playing for a while, or you feel like you want a really deep tone flute, a lot of people love that because it's very soothing and meditative. This flute was made by High Spirits, and this is one of my favorites as well. It is in the key of C, 432 Hertz. So it has a very meditative, soothing sound. But you'll notice that the holes are much more spaced. So it's much more of a stretch for your fingers. And if you're a new player, your fingers are going to be doing stuff that they haven't really done before. They're going to be stretching more, they're going to be articulating in different ways. So that's part of learning to play the flute, is getting your fingers used to that type of movement. And a bigger flute like this is just going to be a little more challenging because your fingers have to spread and stretch just that much more. But you'll hear it has a beautiful, soothing, meditative, deep voice. The flute's also, just like the F sharp, a little bit more challenging to play with your breath control. So you have to be able to breathe very softly on that low note, and it takes a little more air to get it going. Small challenges, which make it an excellent second flute. Or if you're a new player and you just love this meditative sound, and maybe you have a little bit bigger hands, this will work for you too. I've had people in my classes that really want a big, low-tone flute like this, and I've seen people successfully play flutes like this in that first class, even if they've never played flutes at all. So if you feel in your heart that this is the flute for you and you want a deep-tone flute, don't be discouraged and jump right into that. It's much more important that you get a flute that you love, that you're gonna really enjoy the sound of, than to get one that's been recommended to you as the best type of flute. You've got to really love it. On the total opposite end of that spectrum, this is also a High Spirits flute, which I do recommend a lot. And this is my go-to flute, which I bring to classes for people with really small hands, and specifically for kids. I don't make a lot of little small flutes like this, so I love partnering with High Spirits because they can provide me with these really awesome, super high tone mini flutes. This one's in the key of G, and you'll hear it has a very high voice. Which is great for kids, great for people with small hands, and great for somebody that wants a really portable flute. So if you want to stick it in a backpack really easily, or heck, even stick it in your pocket. I've done that hiking. I'll just keep this in my pocket and get it out and play something. The mini flute or really small flute like that is perfect for you. Also, just so you know, a lot of people might think you can't make great music with a high-tone flute, but you really can. I find that you can create an incredible feeling and emotion even with a high-tone flute. So if you feel like this is a great flute for you, don't feel like you can't create awesome moving music with a small flute like this. Lastly, this is one of my absolute favorite flutes as well. This is a drone flute. And this is an excellent flute for that person who's moving up in their practice, getting better at playing the flute, and maybe feeling a little bit bored, and you want to expand your repertoire and be more versatile and have more dynamic playing. And the cool thing with the drone is it's kind of like two flutes in one. So you've got this side, which looks just like a normal flute, and then you've got this side with no holes in it. So this chamber plays one note, and it's the root note, so the same as them all covered. So when all the holes are covered, you're playing the same note, but then you can continue playing that note alongside the others, or switch back and forth and just play one flute like a standard flute. It really gives you a tremendous amount of options in what you can play and the different sounds you can make. So I'll play them together just so you can hear that. Then switch back and play a single. Double. So you can see you can really make some awesome music with a drone flute. Also, I should add that this side can also play the highest note in the range. So if you overblow it, you can jump it to that next octave, and that gives you even more versatility with getting two notes out of this side. Now, if you're a first-time player, you could possibly learn on a flute like this, but it is more challenging. It takes more breath because you're playing two flutes at once, and it also just takes a little more practice to get good at playing two flutes at once, and a little more subtle pressure changes with your breath. So yes, like if you're a new player, you could learn with this, but if you're experienced and want to go to the next level and get yourself something different to expand your playing, a drone flute is an excellent way to go. This one's in the key of A, so just like this flute, except two of them. So those are my favorite flutes, some very common flutes that you'll see out there. Like I said, they're all great. They're all incredibly easy to play. That's one of the things that I just love about this instrument is almost anybody can jump right in and learn how to play a flute within a few minutes and be playing that scale your first time around. So pick one that resonates with you. Pick one that really calls to you, that you love the sound of, and decide if you want something that's small and portable that fits in a backpack, or you want something that's big and deep and has that meditative sound. One other thing I should add is if you want a more traditional type of flute, go with something like the A, or a C or D, a higher tone flute, because from what we can tell of history, those were the flutes that were originally made by the native people of this continent. All the flutes that were found in history were actually high-tone flutes. While people love the big deep tone flutes and they sound amazing, they are a more modern invention. So if that's important to you, if something really traditional is something that you're interested in, go with a higher tone flute, and I think you'll really love it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm always happy to help. Like I said, I love this instrument and I love helping people get into it. I hope this video has served you. If you need a flute, go to desertsunflutes.com, where I often have some available. If you want something custom, I can make you that as well. Thanks for watching. Happy playing.